Very, very welcome today. It's wonderful to see some familiar faces, and I look forward to meeting some new people. This can be a very interactive session, so if you would like to turn on your videos, you would be very, very welcome. But it is lunchtime, so I appreciate you might be eating your lunch at the same time, so there's no pressure. I would like to take this opportunity before we start to thank Iconic Offices for allowing me to speak today on a topic that I'm really passionate about, which is how we can build our mental strength for 2021 and find our mojo. We are living in challenging times, and the word unprecedented has been used so often in 2020, it may even become the word of the year. I know myself that I have found myself lacking in energy, passion, and enthusiasm for my work. And when this happens, I refer to it as losing my mojo. Like some of you, my working office was turned upside down in March when I had to change my spare bedroom into my office, and it has become my hub, and it still is. After the initial shock and being a natural optimism, I enjoyed those first few weeks of being at home, and I definitely became aware of all the benefits that it brought me. But as we entered into the second lockdown in October, my enthusiasm was certainly not the same. And this short video that I just want to share sums up how I was feeling. So that certainly summed up me. And I think we can all relate to that a little bit. So just a very quick intro about who I am. I was born in London. I lived there till I was 11. And then I grew up in Blarney in County Cork. After graduating from UCC with a degree in HR, I spent the next 25 years or so working for US multinationals in a HR leadership role. Passionate about lifetime learning, I graduated from Henley Business School in 2015 with a master's in coaching and behavioral science. And in 2017, I set up my own HR leadership consultancy practice. Passionate in supporting leaders to develop their leadership signature through self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and naming the fear that's holding them back, I work with professionals to figure out what they really want to do with their life. So the way you think about this year will affect how you welcome 2020. And the way you start the year sets the tone for the coming months. And in this presentation, I want to give you some tools of how you can use the remaining time in December 2020 in building your mental muscle. So I love this image because if you look at the time, it's not even 10 past 10, and he in the image is already feeling frustrated and exhausted from the workload that is coming towards him. And certainly this year seems very busy. And I know that some of my clients have been feeling overwhelmed, anxious, and generally feeling of being lost and not knowing what to do with the best. I've spoken to a lot of people recently who are putting on a brave face but underneath they're struggling and they're feeling despondent, finding it hard to motivate themselves at work. And again, this is my definition of what losing your mojo looks like. But it can be easy to get it back. And as I mentioned to you, I really did enjoy the first 2 months of lockdown, April and May. But as the relentless days and weeks went by, with no face-to-face meetings and no fun of any sort, I certainly found that my passion and energy was gone, and there was a feeling of Groundhog Day happening. A recent study has proven that 1 hour of meeting on Zoom takes up the same amount of energy as a 2-hour meeting. So really, there was no wonder why my eyes hurt, my head hurt, and I was exhausted at the end of a 6-hour meetings on Zoom. Ultimately, when your mojo goes walkabout, the only one who can find it is you. And this requires a shift in your thinking. But firstly, you need to believe that you are worth it. And I believe that you are worth it. So here are some quick things that can help you find your mojo. The first is a very personal reason to understand what is your why. Why do you keep sticking with your stuff? And certainly, why do you keep going when life constantly throws you curveballs? Finding your why and connecting it with your purpose is an important part of this equation when it comes to finding your passion. Being aware and start acknowledging all of the small wins that happen to you each day and how this is connected to your why and purpose can help you find your mojo. And for me, a very simple thing that I started to do was think about what was the one thing that I wanted to achieve that day. And when I achieved it, I gave myself a small celebration dance. The second action that you can take is to start to become comfortable with going outside your comfort zone. We've all heard the refrain, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. And there is a reason why we've heard this before. It's true. As much as convenience begs us to stay within our known parameters, think the same thoughts, and do the same things, when we do that, all we'll get is the same thinking. And it's very true. Sometimes finding your mojo can be as simply as trying something new and going outside your comfort zone. I'm not the most comfortable in public speaking, and when I lost my mojo during the summer, I signed up to do 2 talks, and then I signed up later on in the year to do this talk with Christina. Talking about things that are passionate for me helped me give me energy and find what I wanted to do with my work. When we feel uncertain about the future, we can often fill the gaps with an automatic negative prediction, especially when we're feeling anxious. But if we can shift our thinking to focus on what could go right, it gives us a more balanced picture and helps us to start to think about when things are going right for us throughout the day. Sometimes, metaphorically speaking, the best way to help you find your mojo is to dream what might be possible. When I want to engage in this process, I find the art of creative visualization a great way to get real about manifesting what I want. When you're feeling that you've lost your mojo, it can be very hard to imagine ever finding it again. But think back to a time when you felt on fire, positive, successful, maybe happy and productive, fulfilled, and spend time thinking about this. Take yourself back to that moment and focusing on what you can see, what you can hear, and how you felt. Try to experience those emotions again and feel the smile spread over your face. Feel the energy and the lightness that it gives to your body. Capture these feelings because they're real and they're part of you as well. And now spend time every day thinking back to how you felt when you had that passion and energy. Recognizing and connecting with your past work mojo will help you find it easier in the present. We only get one shot at this life, and I think it can be good to remind ourselves of that. When I'm coaching professionals on career change, the one question that I find that can help them shift their thinking is an old question, but it is when I'm in my 80s and I'm on my rocking horse, hopefully your rocking chair, and you're looking back over your life, what is the one thing that you don't want to regret? Become honest with yourself and start to think about what is it that you really want from your life. An alternative way to think about this is to ask yourself, what is the legacy you want to leave? As this can be a really interesting way to shift the needle and start to look at the world differently. If you're feeling a bit low, it can be tempting to brush things under the carpet, telling yourself that you need to get your act together. You need to be positive and be grateful for what you have. But that nagging voice does not help you. It does not help you open your mind, explore new ideas and options, and stop you looking from sleepwalking through your life. So listen to that inner voice. How are you finding it? Is it warm, encouraging, and supportive? Are you treating yourself with kindness? And if the answer is no, why not take this as a good opportunity to remind yourself that you are the only person who can find your mojo. And by treating yourself with kindness, you can do that. It is very important, though, that you spend time listening to your mood and give yourself some space to accept that you are finding life challenging. And some of my clients find this helpful to write things down, asking the questions: how do you feel? What are you missing? What do you need right now? What are you worried about? What are you finding challenging? And this is where the honest part comes into your life. Be honest with yourself. And remember to be kind, to accept that these feelings are a natural response of what's going on. If you remember nothing else about today and nothing else about how to reclaim your mojo, just remember this: treat yourself with kindness and let go of that constant, relentless look at criticizing yourself and saying you are not good enough. So, reflecting on 2020. For most of us, self-reflection is a missing piece of our lives, but we're often all so busy that this can seem like another to-do list on a very long to-do list. But it is important to pause and celebrate. Pause to reflect, pause to take inventory, and pause to see what we can learn. Self-reflection process is a powerful tool, and I'm going to make some suggestions on how you can do this effectively and intently, with the one aim of learning something new. So how do you start to reflect on 2020? Firstly, you need to reflect without ruminating. And as we look back over the last year, we want to think about it without going down the well-worn path of rehashing all the things that went wrong or that we wish was different. Rumination is sometimes referred to as the silent mental health problem because its impact is so often underestimated. Ruminating does not serve us well and is being linked to increase in risks of depression, anxiety, and other health mental issues. So stick to the facts. You might not be happy that you did not meet your financial 2020 goals, but adding layers to that fact in such that you are a loser and you will never get to retire, well, that's not a fact. Reflection is about acknowledging what didn't go well, but in a factual matter, without passing judgment or irrational conclusions. Dwelling on the fact that you felt like a loser for not finishing a project, getting a new job, or losing out on a tender is not helpful. Make a conscious effort to capture those unproductive thoughts and let them go. It is estimated that our mind can have between 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, and it is thought that those estimated 80% of those thoughts are negative and 60 and 95% of them are repetitive. So if you do those maths, you will realize that it's not a great idea to think in a negative and pessimistic mindset. Every time you're aware of such a thought, catch it and challenge it. Is it true? What evidence do you have for that thought? And what's the evidence that this thought is not true? What is a more realistic thought that you can have to replace those negative thinking? As important as it is to be thinking, you need to start to create an environment for good thinking, for that reflection. So what environment can help you generate new thinking? What's the best environment for you to hear the answers to your questions? Where do you feel comfortable and enjoy spending time? Maybe it's your favorite coffee shop, maybe it's in nature, at a beach or a local park. To generate good thinking, it is sometimes good to go somewhere where you would not normally go. For example, this time last year, I went to a local hotel in Cork known as the Kingsley, where I had my lunch overlooking the river, and I did my reflection there on my own. I also think it is good to treat yourself to a nice notebook, one that fills you with joy, and this can help you in jotting down your thoughts. If you're very creative, you might like to draw your thoughts. You can be as creative as you like. The idea is to be open-minded so that you can allow your thinking come into your brain and hear your new thinking. And finally, to help you with your thinking of reflecting on 2020, here are some questions that you might like to ask yourself. It might be an opportunity at the end to take a photograph of these questions so that they can help you. In what ways did you meet or succeed your expectations in 2020? What was the best decision you made, either about yourself, your business, or your job in 2020? What did you do to create or experience this year that you're really proud of? With the benefit of hindsight, what would you have done differently in 2020? And what can you learn from that? What was the greatest lesson that you learned about yourself in 2020? What was the biggest risk that you took in 2020? And what advice will you give yourself in 2021? You may notice that we're now going to talk about how to set goals for 2021. Hopefully your energy and passion is starting to come back to you for 2020. And you may have noticed that I've changed the word from goals to intention. I believe in goal setting is a very valuable practice that can help us get things done. That is essential in completing tasks, whether it's developing a new business skill or even just cleaning out a closet. And while setting goals can motivate you, they can also produce a feeling that you currently don't have is enough. However, being intentional will allow us to focus on how we want to be in the moment and how we live each day, independent of whether we are winning or losing in our goals. Focusing on the intention does not mean we give up our goals or desire to achieve, but while we're building up our mojo and treating ourselves with kindness, our intentions are how we can live each day, independent of achieving the goal. By setting your intention first, combining it with your goals, and then taking action will ensure that you enjoy the journey as much as the destination. During the first lockdown in March, my intention was to be outside and do some form of exercise every day. And I made the goal to run 5 kilometers in less than 30 minutes. However, I'm not a person who ever enjoyed sports as a child. And I could hardly run with it when I was 4. So to think that I could take up running now that I'm in my mid-40s did become a surprise to some of the people who know me best. But I made out my round route of 5 kilometers, not going beyond 2 kilometers of my house, and I went 4 to 5 mornings a week for 8 weeks. And I did achieve my goal in running 5 kilometers in less than 30 minutes. But more importantly, I enjoyed the process. And although some mornings I was very slow, and I was a lot longer than my 30 minutes, I didn't try to beat myself up, and I didn't tell myself that I wasn't doing well. I treated myself with kindness, and I looked at my intention, which was to be outside and doing some exercise. So far, we've looked at ways of building up your mojo, reflecting on 2020, and how to set your intentions and build your goals for 2021. And please, if you have any comments or thoughts of how this can work for you or how you can share anything that you've learned, please do add them into the chat box and we'll pick them up at the end. And now I'd like to look at 3 ideas that can help you build your mental strength. No matter how mentally strong you are, there's always room for improvement. And sometimes it can only take a few quick exercises to learn how to build your mental muscle. If you feel that your optimism quota for this year has taken a nosedive, and maybe you feel that you were born with less optimism than other people, I have some good news for you. You can learn it. A coaching practice known as positive psychology has studies which can describe the scientific study of what makes life living. And it has proven that you can learn the process that contribute to positive mental strength. But just like any muscle, the more you train your brain, the stronger it will become. Neuroplasticity is the name given to our ability to rewire the brain's patterns of thoughts. And this is the reason why we can develop our mental strength. These newborn brain cells have the capability to develop into mature functioning neurons, which can help us learn new thoughts. It can also help us recognize the thought patterns that are unhelpful to us and develop new ways of looking at new situations. And if you can remember, that is one of the tips that we looked at when finding our mojo. So here are 3 quick exercises that you can start working on now to build some mental strength before the end of the year. The first one is to practice gratitude. And this is the fastest, simplest, and most cost-effective way for you to develop mental muscle. I have made this a very simple process, which I've been practicing for years. And all that I do is think of 3 things that I'm very grateful when I am in bed before I go to sleep. Being thankful has a major impact on how we think, how we feel, and how we act. It's like an underrated superpower that can change our lives. I know some people like to keep writing, and they find keeping a gratitude diary hugely beneficial. And again, this can be a format that can support you with your creative powers. If you have trouble sleeping, as many of us do at the moment, you'll be pleased to know that a study in 2011 found that people who spent 15 minutes a day writing into a gratitude journal before bed not only improved the duration of their sleep, but also the quality of their sleep. An easily overlooked life lesson is that the more you try to control things in your life, the less in control you will feel. And the second related lesson is that when you don't feel in control, then you can tend to focus on the negative. So my second area of building mental strength is learn to let go of the things that you cannot control or change. Letting go of the need to control everything allows you to gain a different perspective on your capabilities and how you choose to respond to them. For me, again, at the start of our lockdown in October, I tried not to think of what could be happening, but rather what was happening for me now. For the last 10 years, I've gone on my summer holidays in November, and I've always gone to the sun, and I've always gone in general to Asia. And at the start of November, the weather was particularly bad, and I was thinking about how was I going to last the rest of the next 6 weeks with these large, dark grey weather. But I started to think about what I could think about. And one of the things that I have sometimes missed by going away in November is the changing color of the leaves as we moved from autumn into November. So I started to take my daily walk down at the local park, and I made a conscious effort to look at the leaves and notice how they were changing from one color to another. Being in nature and walking is really important to me, so I made this a priority in my life. But also finding other ways to relax also helped me, like having a hot bath at the end of the day. If we start to notice what makes us good and savor that sensation, we are more likely to encode them into our brain, creating positive events for all of us to remember and recall later. Mother Teresa once said, "We cannot do great things on this earth, only small things with great love." And my final tool in developing mental strength is to think about random acts of kindness. A definition of kindness is that it is a behavioral response of compassion and actions that are selfless, or a mindset that replaces compassion for others' needs before our own interests. The phrase, I should say, of random acts of kindness is relatively well known and has been shared throughout the world. And there is huge benefits and science that has proven that by doing random acts of kindness can improve the well-being of someone. The University of British Columbia did a study in 2015 of a group of highly anxious individuals in which that they performed at least 6 acts of kindness a week. After 1 month, there was a significant increase in positive moves, relationship satisfaction, and a decrease in social avoidance amongst the 6 people. Research has continued to show that people who are more kind have 23% less cortisol, the stress hormone, and kindness pushes our body to produce serotonin, which is commonly known as the feel-good chemical, that provides healing and calming feelings. So I'm going to leave that one with you of how you can think about doing a random act of kindness every day between now and the end of the year that will help with you in developing your mental strength. So far, we have looked at tips to build our mojo, reflection on 2020 that can help us learn something that we can take into 2021, and 3 tools in developing our mental strength for just developing our mental strength, I should say. I think that random act of kindness can be absolutely massive. I know of somebody who goes into Waterstones. I certainly did last year, right? And would place the cost of the book in the inside cover with a note that anyone who picks it up, who was obviously interested in the book, and the note said, you know, have this book on me. And honestly, I think that's just absolutely massive. It's not something I've done, but it's just an act of kindness that has stayed with me because it is just so appreciative. You may imagine you were in Waterstones looking at a book, and all of a sudden, somebody is offering to buy it for you. I think that's just huge. So whatever the act of kindness might be, it's very important. I'm happy to take any questions, or if anyone wants to reach out to me directly, here are my details. Thank you to Iconic Offices for this great opportunity. As I mentioned earlier, you know, public speaking isn't something that I thoroughly enjoy doing. So it pushed me outside my comfort zone to talk to you today about a topic that I'm very passionate about. And thank you all for being so wonderful.